Welcome to another round of Azure RoundUp session. And this is the second part of Marco's previous session, the session that he was discussing, which is Azure DevOps versus GitHub, the best of both worlds. So this is part 2. I hope everybody's doing great. And welcome to, again, Marco's session. Hey, Marco, how are you doing?
Very good, very good. Thank you for giving me this time in order to present. So I'm really appreciate your effort in here.
Yeah, no worries, Marco. Welcome to Azure RoundUp. We will love to learn from you. And the session 1 was really good, and looking forward to learn more from the session number 2. So the floor is yours. So you can go ahead and share your screen, and you can tell us the differences and the best of both worlds.
Okay, that's great. That's great. So in our last session, we were discussing and we were talking about some of the integrations that we can do using Azure DevOps as well as GitHub. And we talk about several, let me just point them in here for a sec. We were talking about some areas, some tools that each of the services have, and they're strange. We are going to focus in this session in the collaboration, in the security, in version and controlling, and also in the process area. Because actually that's where most of the mix is going to be done using Azure DevOps as well as GitHub in there. So let me review or let me remind you. Actually, where are we going to be actually talking in this area? We're going to be spending our time in here, and what we're going to talk about in the next following minutes is about the integration between Azure Boards and also with, for example, in this case, the repository in GitHub. Why is that? Remember that there's an advantage in having or using our code or having our code in GitHub. That advantage, actually, we covered it in our last session. The advantage of keeping our code in GitHub is not because of the versioning and controlling itself, though it has some advantage regarding collaboration and open source and all those things, but that's not the really main point. The main point about keeping our code in GitHub is about security and also collaboration with Codespaces, something that we don't have in Azure DevOps. That's why we suggest you to keep your code in GitHub, take advantage of the security, and also take advantage of the collaboration services from Codespaces. That's why we are going to keep our code in GitHub. But what about process methodologies using Agile, Scrum, CMMI?
Yep.
We don't have that at this moment in GitHub. We don't have a tool that is going to help us to assign a work item to Abu and tell you, hey, Abu, we have this work item. Are you done? Are you working on it? Have you completed? How much time did it took you to complete this? Are you in the correct sprint? So we don't have a proper methodology, a proper tool in order to follow up our project. And
so that means the full project management tool that Azure Board offers, that is not yet that level availability in GitHub, right?
Exactly. It's what we have in GitHub. It's projects, and projects. It's still in its early stages. So I don't really suggest you that tool if you want to really follow up your project. But what's the answer? What's the solution? Well, to use Boards and link Azure Boards with GitHub in order to do the perfect mix. So let's jump into the portal right now, and let's go straight to the point.
So one quick question. So the thing is, I can use Azure DevOps Boards, and also I can integrate GitHub both together, right? So for project management, I can use Azure Boards, and I can use the DevOps features as well. So I can integrate both, right? That's one thing. And the other one that you highlighted, which is called the Codespaces, that actually means that like multiple developers that can actually work together and work on the same code and modify at the same time, right?
Exactly.
Exactly. Okay.
Exactly. And remember that we covered code spaces, and code spaces at the end. What is code spaces? It's going to be a container that is going to run Visual Studio Code, and also is going to run several other features. For example, right now in here, I'm in code spaces, and what that means? That means that I don't even need to have Visual Studio Code installed in my PC in order to use code spaces. And also I can, for example, this code spaces comes with several good features. In this case, let's talk about collaboration code spaces, which is something that we didn't actually finish in our last session. So for example, right now, and let's double check this. Remember, I'm right now in my GitHub organization. So in my GitHub organization, you'll have to go into your profile configuration. Let's make this a little bit, that's okay. And you'll go to your code spaces. And in code spaces, you're going to open up, you're going to create that container that is going to have, first of all, let me just, you'll click in here, open in browser, or you can open Visual Studio Code locally. That's going to be up to you. So that means that I could be in my laptop, I could be using my tablet, my phone, whatever, and I'll be able to spin up my Visual Studio Code session. And once you spin up your container, you're going to add this current project into the container. I'm sorry, into the container, and that is going to have your project in there. So let's jump into our code space. So take a look at this. I'm right now using Edge, as you may take a look in here, and I'm using this URL, and that's the URL pointing to my container that is being hosted in GitHub. Now, like I was telling you, it has some really good advantage besides, for example, sharing my session. So in here, I'm going to share my session. I'm going to click in share. I'm going to, let's see, I'm going to use my GitHub sign in. I'm going to sign in with GitHub. And I'm going to share my session. I'm going to give you the link for you to actually join my session, and we could collaborate in real time. Take a look at this. We'll be able to collaborate in real time, and we'll be able to code in real time. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to send it to you by chat, and you might log in if you want. So let's do the test in here. I'm going to spin up another session, another private session, so I can also join my own session. So it's a nested session. So in here, I'm going to join my own session using the browser as well. So I'm going to click cancel in this step because I don't want to open up locally my Visual Studio Code, and I'm going to click in this preview configuration, which is to open up this live share session from Codespaces using the browser. So in here, well, this is actually telling me that Codespaces has been moved to GitHub. Remember, I told you in our last session that Codespaces used to live in Azure DevOps, but not anymore. Okay, in here, I'm going to sign in using my Microsoft account. And if you take a look at live share, I could join anonymously if I allow this, or I can join using for example, GitHub, using Microsoft, or whatever access control session that you have. Here, let me just continue here. It's asking me to approve. So I was just getting my phone because I have multi-factor authentication configure in GitHub. And let me just authenticate myself. Okay, so I just authenticated. I can close and take a look at this. I'm sharing my container to you and also to myself. And take a look at this. In here, this is where I am at this moment. So let me just put this in here and also Let me get into my Codespaces, and we'll be able to see in real time here if I'm actually doing something. Take a look. For example, in here, learn more. Let me just scroll down. So for example, if I start to do a change, you'll also see it in real time. So this is a great tool in order to collaborate with many developers independently of where you are. That's a very good. And the great thing is that you won't have to use your local processing power in order to run many configurations. For example, and another good thing about Codespaces, it already has some tools installed. For example, um, the Kubernetes tools are already installed. So for example, if I do a kubectl get all, I'm interacting with my Kubernetes environment. I could also, for example, run Docker commands. So it has also the Docker's tools. And how did I do this? Well, take a look at this. I have the Kubernetes extension installed. So I'm able to also install several extensions in Kubernetes, even from external vendors. And in this case, I'm already logged into my Azure subscription, subscription, and I'm able to see in this case all of the Kubernetes. So it has several, or you can install several extensions in these Codespaces, and you won't have to use your local power. So great tool in order to collaborate, and also in order to leverage all the compute power. Okay. Now that we have Codespaces installed, let's get into the integration between GitHub and also between Azure DevOps. So let's remember. So in here, what we have at this moment, we have our code. We have our code in here. And right now, we're going to use Azure DevOps, specifically boards, in order to manage our methodology and process. So also, we're going to do some sort of, and by the way, here, this is in GitHub at this moment. GitHub, and you can also use, we're using Codespaces. So we have this configuration at this moment, this integration. So through Codespaces, I'm doing changes in my code, and my code is going to reflect any change in Azure DevOps, specifically boards. So let's take a look at that. Okay, so let's go back. Okay. What's the first thing you need to do in order to integrate both tools? It's very simple. You have to go into the marketplace. So you can go directly from GitHub. And you are going to search for, in this case, Azure DevOps Boards. And in here, there's an application, an extension that is going to help you link both accounts. So you're going to set up a new plan. I already have it, so I can do it. Again, I'll probably mess up the environment. So you only have to set up the account. What's that going to do internally is just to create what we call a service connection. Exactly. Yeah. So that's what we're going to do. Establish a service connection, which is a trust between your organization in GitHub and also your organization in Azure DevOps. So at the end, you'll end up with this. So I have the project that I'm going to use as the project where I have my methodology. If you go into project settings, if you go into GitHub connections, you'll see this service connection that is establishing the trust between both organizations. So in here, take a look that I have connected my project, which is named Getting Project, to, in this case, my organization Getting Project in GitHub. So that's the way we do it. Now,
so that way, every organization, they can basically integrate both tools. So they can take the best out of the GitHub, and also they can manage the full project management, all the boards and sprints and everything from the Azure DevOps board, right?
exactly. And why is that? Because all of these configuration create work items to have a boards, interactive boards, to assign a task, an issue, an epic, a story, whatever work item to, for example, to you. It's actually the only tool that we have at this moment is in Azure DevOps, and it's named Boards. So let's do something. I already created a work item. It's a task, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to update my current code, and I'm going to whenever I do, for example, a change, a pull request into my code, I'm going to save that, and I'm going to link that change into an item in my boards. Why is that? Because every time you make any change in your code, according to the best practices, you have to link that change to one task in your methodology environment. So I'm going to make a change in my current code, and I'm going to link that to this task that I have in here. So in this task, which is, for example, change 29, it's something just to reference the change. I'm going to start linking I'm going to link my change with this with this work item directly in GitHub without doing any change in Azure DevOps. This is going to be totally automatically. Okay, so let's get into the work. So right now, once again, I'm in Codespaces. The thing is that we're going to be using all of the tools that we've been talking about. So let's join into in this case into my Codespaces, where I already have. You take a look at this Git status. I'm already connected into Git remote -v, which, by the way, take a look at this. Codespaces and Visual Studio Code already has the tools in order to speak with GitHub, and it has all the Git tools. So in here, take a look. I'm already connected into my branch. So what we're going to do, well, as a best practice, we have to create a branch whenever we're going to do a change. That's also a best practice to do. So let's create a new branch. Git, this case, checkout -b in order to create a new branch, and let's call it Git -branch. And let's do right now. We are in. We're going to do a small change. Actually, I'm just going to change this number. It's easier for all of us. So that means that we're going to create a new branch called Git BR29, and we're going to switch into that branch as well. So if you take a look in here, I'm already there. Let's try to make this a little bit bigger. Okay, now it's better. Now let's make a quick change. So it's we're not going to do anything too fancy. Now I'm going to VI to edit. It's going to be, I can do a VI using bash, or I can do the change using actually the GUI. So it doesn't matter. All of them are going to work. Okay, now let's save. And now we've done a change in the code. So take a look in here. Even though I did it through VI, in the GUI is being reflected since I'm also in the index website. So let's save the change. Git add here, and let's try to do a commit. So this part is going to be critical. And by the way, let's double check that. Okay, so I just validating. I was validating that the change was added into the branch. So now let's do a commit and let's save the changes for good in the actual branch. So let's do a git commit, and this is the critical part. So this is where actually the magic starts. So we're going to add a comment into the change in order to send the new branch into GitHub. So because in here we're working locally in Codespaces, correct? And then we're going to send the new branch into GitHub in order to actually create a pull request. So in here, let's do. I'm going to just add some reference in here. I'm going to tell you that we're working in branch 29, and take a look at this. If I add the fixed word, that means that whenever the change is linked into the work item, this means that we're going to automatically close the change in the work item in Azure DevOps. So the fixed word, if you use fixed, or if you use fixed, that's going to close the work item in Azure DevOps. So in here, let's remember, right now, this work item is in the state new. If we add the word fix, it's going to close it, okay? So that's very important. If we remove fix, it's just going to add the change it's going to link the change with the work item. But we're going to add fix in order to close it, okay? Fix, and in here, we're going to add AV, that's very important. We have to add this numeric character, and also we're going to add the ID of the work item that where we want to link this change to the work item. So what's this ID? Let's go into Azure DevOps. Take a look at this number. This is the ID of the work item, and that's how GitHub knows how to actually link the change with this specific work item. So 547. 547. And I'm going to send it like that. Okay, now, right now all the changes have been committed. Now let's push the change into GitHub, and we're going to do a git push. Upstream, begin, and in here we're going to add the new branch, which is git branch 29. So we're going to send the branch 29, the one I just created locally. I'm going to send it to GitHub. Okay, now it's pushing the new branch. Let's take a look. Now let's go into GitHub once again. Okay, in here, well, if you see, yep, I just uploaded the branch that I created locally from Codespaces to my GitHub. Why? Because obviously we want to keep all of our branches, all of our changes in GitHub, not locally. So in here, if you take a look, we had just pushed that new branch, and I can actually go in there, and in here we're going to see the new change in the index website.
Wow. Yeah, excellent.
Change 29.
Change 29.
And now let's take a look at the work items. Now let's see if the work item was updated. Now let's go into build 29.
29, yeah.
And take a look at this.
Yep.
So it linked the change, the commit, and the branch that we did from GitHub automatically to this work item. So once we do a pull request, we're going to see the state into done. So, and if you go into this commit, let's go and click. It's going to send you directly to the actual, in this case, the pull, the fix and the commit for you to actually do a pull request and to fix or to add the change into the environment.
And it compares the both, and it compares the both environment, right? It's like change number 28 to change number 29.
Exactly. So that's a feature that we have in GitHub. We also have that in Azure DevOps, but with obviously with repo. But in here, you as a developer, you'll see, hey, what's Marco been doing? Okay, it changed from 28 into 29. Okay, I'm going to approve it or I'm going to deny the change, and we're going to merge. So that's what's going to happen in the near future. So
All
that
right.
easily
So
we integrated the environment.
yeah, all right. That's it. Yeah, thank you so much. I really loved it. The cross-platform integration between our GitHubs and Azure DevOps, and also using Codespaces. I really appreciate, Marco, for your time for doing these presentations with us. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Abu. Hopefully we'll talk soon. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay. Bye bye.
Bye.